just emphasizing that even when you're living in the forest like Daudam, it's important to have these meetings, whether just not like necessarily formal meditation and chanting meetings, but just in sense of the Sangha comes together every day, partly just with a practical sense of seeing who's there. Is anybody sick? Has anybody had a tiger in? And as soon as someone's absent, you have to really go and look for them. So I explained to him that, for example, when we fast, we have a system where you should write your name on the board and take responsibility for that. And Ajahn saying, as monastics, those who have gone forth, we should hold up Maggaphala Nibbana as our true goal. This is the heartwood of the Buddha's teachings, this the true aspiration. But in the meantime, in our early days, the preliminary, the starting phase of our monastic and spiritual training, then it's important to do all the basic duties, and these will be laid out and led and taught you by whoever's the Ajahn, whoever has somebody has a few contas experience and is capable to lead and teach, show you the way. So it's very important that you do follow what the Ajahn tells you to do, because these practices are the foundation for the higher practices. And Ajahn saying, classic teaching of Ajahn Chah is to be very careful and not to buy into your own thoughts. So a classic example is that the thought will arise, surely, maybe it's not so necessary to have morning chanting now or evening chanting now, or I want to just practice alone in my own way. He's saying, if you just shouldn't really, believe these thoughts, because Sinimak's telling you, and what I said before is that do it with patient endurance, and mindfulness is a real key tool. I'm saying you have to be very careful of your thoughts. This is the biggest obstacle, but also the sort of subtler aspect of thoughts, which is views and opinions, attaching to views and opinions. We believe our own opinions, and an important place you can see this is in the paying of respects and the formal practices of respect. If you're lacking respect and you buying into your views and opinions, which gives rise to self-view, self-importance, what's called Sakkaya Ditthi, the fetter of attaching to self-view, then you won't perform the kind of the gestures of respect in the correct way, and this will serve to further enhance your sense of self-importance and your ego, if you like. And so all these things that we do, the kind of the motions, the Acharya-wata, these all serve to reduce that. Just actually before, what Ajahn said was that he said that as young monks, when he was talking about doing the Korwat, as young monks, you don't have to use your minds very much. You don't have to use your thinking, and it's that thinking which is a sort of big obstacle to samadhi. So you're in a very lucky situation. You just have the Dhamma Chah, Dhamma Yen, the Korwat, the Acharya-wata, and just do those things, and you can do those in a very with quite a free mind, and so you still have a lot of time left, freedom of mind to practice. Yeah. So the Korwat Patibat, the routine and all the little things we do, the monastic duties, this is the basic foundation for our practice, and it will give you a very clear way to see if at times your mind begins to protest and object to doing all of these things, then you'll see very clearly what your relationship to it is. So whether the Ajahn says to come together and practice in a group, that's fine. There may be times to practice on your own, but for a senior monk, the senior monk has to have strength in order to look after everybody and see where everyone's at. So the Korwat is actually something which facilitates that aspect of seeing and being able to look after everybody, because you have a kind of clear sense of where people are at. The Korwat also, when everybody takes it on, it makes it very warm and harmonious. Opun means like warm and cozy. It creates a warm and cozy feeling in the Sangha and gives gamangjai, gives strength of mind and enthusiasm for the right time. For practice. And then when the time is right, samadhi will arise, or you can develop your samadhi. You have to at that time, then you have to turn all your attention to your arom kamatan, that means your meditation object. And this is, the purpose of this is a skillful means to make your mind peaceful. But this is very, very difficult. The still mind is very difficult to attain. And so what we have to have is a sati, mindfulness, in the pachuban, in the present moment. If we don't have this mindfulness in the present moment, or our mind simply refuses to attain or just is unable to realize that peace, then it's very easy to lose heart and to lose confidence in the practice. But if you just attain even a small amount of samok, this peace of mind, then effort and energy will arise naturally, because you'll see straight away that there are results. Really make your daily contemplations. You contemplate nature very thoroughly, and this leads to a peaceful mind. This is very important. If you have the Korwat in place and the 227 rules of the Patimokkha, contemplate your use of the requisites before using them. These kind of things are the basis for the formal bhavana, the formal practice of sitting meditation and walking meditation. The whole point of the practice is to foster the conditions for a peaceful mind, and this leads to a free mind. This can arise. It's true. It's possible, but it takes persistent effort. Chah, when he was alive, he used to look he taught us to look at the other monks and to see who's putting forth effort, who's sitting meditation, who's walking meditation. And when you see your fellow monastics and you cultivate it yourself, then you don't lose heart. It may be that at times doubts arise in your mind with regard to the practice and the training. Then just ask the senior monks, those of you that are going through Dhamma, it'll be Dansari Panyo, and respect the senior monk as the Pratanson, as the head of the Sangha. If you just want to do things all your own way, then you'll just be a very confused person, and it will make the whole situation confused. So don't be attached to your own views and opinions, which gives rise to ditthimana, this conceitedness. You may look at the senior monk and think to yourself, he doesn't look like he knows much about practice. I know I practice my meditations better than his. And maybe it is true, but none of this is certain. So, if and when you really develop samadhi, then your mind will become less firm and strong, and will become gentler, and so you'll be able to have that full respect for the Dhamma Vinaya, which accords respect to those of seniority, and wisdom arises then with regard to this. Luang Chah taught us and always emphasized this respect for the senior monks. We had to pay respects to all the terrors in according to their pansas, and this was very good for preventing kilesas from arising, and again was a foundation for samadhi to arise. So train yourselves in this way. So in our attempts or in trying to develop samadhi, we have to use kwamotthon, which is patience, endurance, or kanti varami. Samadhi does not arise easily, especially in places like deep forest areas, because there's often things like fear arising, and if the mind still has no inner refuge, the mind will straight away begin to proliferate and bruntang, and this leads to much suffering. But this is the mind of Kamlong, is delusion or ignorance. When samadhi does arise, then panya arises, and all your fears will subside and abate. And finally you will be able to let go of the attachment to the Rupa Dhamma and Nama Dhamma. So this is the best way, this is the correct way to train yourself in a fearful or dangerous environment. Luang Chah always used to say that before he himself had realized the Dhamma, he had to overcome so many obstacles. It wasn't easy at all. He lived in dangerous places where there were tigers. He lived in cemeteries, charnel grounds, but he overcame all of these things in order to realize the Dhamma that he did. So if we see the value of his teachings and wholeheartedly take them on and practice them, this will lead to peace of mind, and satipanya will arise. So this year it's been 16 years since his death, And even though all of you have ordained after that period, Luang Por Chah's direct disciples, the Kruba Ajahns, like Ajahn Anan himself, have now carried on the tradition and are handing them down to you. So this is very fortunate. So it's as if you're getting the teachings from him. This leads to great benefits. Your faith, the faith that you have to come and ordain, will increase, and so will your mindfulness, and mindfulness will lead to wisdom. So on a day like today, we have the refuge of Luang Por Chah in our hearts, or make a refuge in our hearts, thinking of Luang Por Chah by doing this Patipati Puja. That's to say the way of practicing by making offerings or devotional offerings. So lastly, may all of you, whether you're going to Daudam or staying behind, for this period of Wat Banana Chat, may you all go in the Dhamma. So does anybody have any questions? Sanjan's really giving us a lot of time and attention. Does anybody have any questions? Ajahn answered, when your body is sick, and particularly if you're experiencing pain, then it's time to clearly contemplate and clearly investigate the nature of the body. And Luang Por Chah always taught us to try to go beyond Vedana, go beyond physical sensations or pain. If you see Vedana, if you see pain as self, then this will lead to dukkha. So learn to separate it out. And Ajahn relates a time when he ตอนไปกราบหลวงพ่อพุทธก่อนตอนที่ทำที่โรงพยาบาลใช่ไหมหลวงพ่อพุทธ was one of the senior Kruba Ajahns who passed away less than 10 years ago, a disciple of Luang Por Man, and he died of cancer. But Ajahn went to visit him in the hospital when he already had cancer, and he said, how are you feeling? Luang Por, how are you feeling? And Luang Por said, I'm absolutely fine. And then just a few days later he died. So Luang Por Put's mind had no attachment to Nama Rupa. He knew how to separate it up. He had a free mind. And this free mind, in developing this free mind, is also a very good way to simply reduce your attachment to sense of self, the Tuaton. So when you're sick or in pain, just contemplate Rupa and Nama. Pain is simply an aspect of the body. The physical pain isn't bound up with your mind. But if you attach to it, if you attach to your body as self, then dukkha will arise. So this is the way to go beyond Vedana.